What would you do if you received a call informing you that your father, a legend adored by millions, had passed away and no one could explain why? That would be a gut punch. Elizabeth, Gene Hackman's daughter, was shocked to learn 2 weeks ago on February 26, 2025, that the 95-year-old Hollywood legend and his 65-year-old wife Betsy Arawa had been discovered dead in their New Mexico home. At first, everyone thought it was just time catching up with Gene. He was 95 after all. But then the story took a crazy turn. This wasn't simply a heartbreaking farewell to a movie star. It was a mystery begging for solutions when Betsy was discovered dead next to them in a completely different room. Elizabeth, holding back her tears, finally opened her mouth, and what she said ignited this already bizarre story. Let's take a step-by-step look at this. Imagine Gene Hackman, the tough guy actor who gave us Popey Doyle in The French Connection, Lex Luthor, Superman, and Betsy, his wife of more than 30 years, living peacefully in Santa Fe with their dogs and views of the desert. Then, all of a sudden, a maintenance worker who hadn't heard from them in a long time called for a wellness check, and security discovered Gene sprawled in the mudroom, with Kane by his side as if he had just taken a step and never got back up. Betsy in the back, prescription pills all over her, and a space heater humming close to their Kelpie mix. There was no blood, no break-ins, and Xena lay dead in a kennel with 2 other dogs, Bear and Nikita, barely clinging on. Silence and a lot of questions are clues. This is where it gets spicy because Elizabeth and her sisters Leslie and Annie were left reeling and determined to find out what had happened to Dad and Betsy. The first reports were scattered around. Yes, Gene had a pacemaker, and the man's high-tech heart ticker indicated that it stopped beating on February 17th. 9 days before anyone discovered them, their dogs were pacing and starving, and no one let them go. Betsy, however, was only 65 years old, much younger than Gene, and as far as anyone could tell, she was healthy. So why would she suddenly pass away at the same time? When the New Mexico Gas Company swept the house that evening, February 26th, the police ruled out carbon monoxide and gas leaks early on. They discovered a small stove leak and a few code violations with the water heater and fireplaces, but nothing that could kill a couple. Their dog toxicology tests came back clean and there was no poison gas. No apparent what gives this foul play, but let's also discuss where they were discovered. In the mudroom, Gene was wearing comfortable sweatpants, long-sleeve tee, and slippers as if he was just going to get the mail. His cane and sunglasses were there, suggesting that he might have tripped or collapsed. Experts like James Gill, a top medical examiner who was not involved in the case, offered a theory that Gene might have had a heart attack at 95. That's fair enough, but Betsy's scene was different. She was in the bathroom, pills all over the counter, an open bottle, and she was staring back at the deputies. Was she sick? Stressed? Or did she do something drastic? Jill shot it down when the idea of a companion tragedy, couples deciding to go out together, came up. They're not in bed holding hands, he remarked, but separate rooms, which isn't how it generally appears. As a result, the narrative thickens and their sad dog becomes worse. Police initially mistook Xena for their German Shepherd bear. However, Nikita and the bear survived Xena's death. It's distressing to think that your owners are gone, you're stranded, and no one is coming. Betsy's shadow most likely died of malnutrition or dehydration. In the hopes that conversations, texts, or pictures could be used to create a timeline, the police took 2 cell phones from the residence. The issue is that there is no exterior or interior surveillance footage. It appears as though Gene and Betsy have disappeared. Crumbs of a story that doesn't quite fit yet are left behind by into thin air. Elizabeth informed the press while observing from a distance. I can't wait to find out what occurred. How long did they lie there? We announced the death of our father Gene Hackman and his wife Betsy with great sadness. Elizabeth's voice broke, and you could feel the weight of all the unanswered questions on her shoulders. A few days ago, in March 2025, she stepped up to the microphone with Leslie and Annie, her sisters, and let it all out. She began her words trembling, saying, "He was loved by millions for his brilliant career, but to us he was just Dad and Grandpa. We'll miss him so much." It was devastating, and you could hear the room go silent. Everyone was waiting for her next move, and when she dropped it, we suspect that it was a gas leak of carbon monoxide or something else. It got crazier when the family's instincts clashed with what the police had already ruled out. Elizabeth was crying not only because she was sad, but also because she was frustrated and possibly even unsure because she had been told that gas and carbon monoxide were off the table, but she was still holding on to that belief. Why was it more credible than a random FL? Luke? Or did she have knowledge that the rest of us did not? And the police officers remained firm. No gas, no carbon monoxide, no foul play. But Elizabeth's words turned a peaceful investigation into a public tug of war. Online fans went crazy, with some supporting her and claiming she is his daughter. She would know that others shot back the tests, so don't lie. Let It Go Hollywood also began to buzz. He was referred to as a dear friend by Clint Eastwood, who directed Gene in Unforgiven. I will really miss him. The tributes were lovely, but Elizabeth's unguarded movement dominated the show. Morgan Freeman, who was crying on stage, said, "Rest in peace, my friend." Elizabeth wasn't merely grieving. She was demanding answers. The cause of this for her? Gene was more than just a celebrity. He was her rock, and Betsy had been the glue that kept their family's peaceful existence together. Their untimely deaths were shattering Elizabeth, and the police were still searching through medical records and cell phone data. Without clarity, every day was just another twist of the knife. When Gene went down, did Betsy try to help him, or did something else take her out? The climax hit hard. Gene's pacemaker indicated February 17th, but her death date was remained blank. Elizabeth was pointing to gas when something else stole the show. Those tablets. The world couldn't stop listening to this. A daughter's anguish colliding with an unsolvable mystery. The scene in Betsy's bathroom was the police didn't call it strange, but they also didn't call it anything. What if Betsy hadn't just collapsed? I'm just putting this out there. She took those pills on purpose. Listen to me. Unsettling open bottle, scattered medications, and a bright space heater close by. Gene is 95 years old and frail. Perhaps he falls in the mud room and passes out. Betsy discovers him in a panic and is unable to handle life without him. She is 65 years old and still has years to go, but she has spent more than 30 years with Gene. Could she have made a decision, or, conversely, what if Gene's death wasn't natural? Did he stumble, or was he reaching for something trauma-free? Yes, but what about his medications? Did they interfere with the plot? It's not only Betsy. Zena's death in her kennel lends fuel to the theory that this peaceful couple's demise may have been more planned than anybody cares to acknowledge. If Betsy was leaving quickly, why didn't she let the dogs go unless she didn't intend to stay? Elizabeth's gas. The detectives hadn't decided whether to rule pills in or out yet, and the stillness was deafening. Suddenly, this wasn't just a tragedy. It was a potential bombshell. Theory began to feel like a barrier, a method to avoid a deeper truth she couldn't confront. Double homicide or double decision was the media's pounce. Headline yelled. Fans were divided. Some witnessed an accident, while others were crowded. The tributes from Hollywood continued. Gene was described as magnificent by Francis Ford Coppola. Elizabeth versus the unknown was the true story, despite Nathan Lane's raving about the birdcage. As of today, March 6, 2025, the investigations are still ongoing. Cell phones are being cracked open, pill bottles are being analyzed, and Elizabeth is waiting. What if the answers weren't in gas pipes or pacemakers, but in Gene and Betsy's hearts and minds themselves? It's a theory that chills you too so much that you couldn't let go even in death. Though tears dry up, hope wanes. The legacy of Gene Hackman will endure. The French Connection is forever etched in the film industry. Born in 1930, he battled his way through a difficult upbringing to win an Oscar for Best Novel. He retired in 2004 to write novels and live with Betsy and Santa Fe, who were his rock, pianist, and businesswoman. Their love story was genuine, which may be why this ending hurts so much. In addition to being Gene's wife, Betsy co-owned a high-end furniture company, played classical piano expertly, and supported him through the highs and lows of Hollywood. Their dogs were their children, and they were losing Bearer and Nikita. The surviving puppies are safe today after Zena's severe blow, but the house they left behind is a Clues ghost town. Just a mudrow, a restroom, and a million what-ifs. No cameras, no witnesses. Elizabeth's request for clarification, louder than ever, echoes her gas hunch may be incorrect, but her pain is genuine and it's keeping us interested. Here's my opinion. I'm not sure how long they were dead. Perhaps Gene's heart failed and Betsy lost him and went down her own road. Or perhaps it's just fate and two lives ending together with little drama. But the reason is still unknown and it's driving us crazy. This narrative is far from over, So please share your comments here about the accident choice or something we haven't yet figured out. Next time, we'll go deeper into Hollywood's unsolved mysteries. You won't want to miss it. Elizabeth's tears demand it, and Jean and Betsy deserve the truth.